It's great to be home in Austin and in the Western District. I wanted to come by just to really say thank you and to, we're dedicating this new space, but we're really dedicating the men and women of this task force and the great work that you do, whether it's the Sheriff's Office, Police Department, U.S. Marshal Service, working together to bring fugitives back to justice. A year ago today, the #1 fugitive was hunted down and killed, Bin Laden. It was really the beginning of the end in the war on terror, but it really began a long time ago. You go back to 1993, one of the other greatest fugitives we've ever had, Ramzi Youssef, tried to bring down the World Trade Center in 1993. He was not successful, although he killed many people, and he fled to Pakistan, where I've traveled many times as a congressman, and he went to Islamabad. He met up with his uncle Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, another fugitive, the mastermind of 9/11. And from there they talked about flying airplanes into buildings. So when Ramzi Youssef was eventually arrested, and Fred Burton in town with Stratford as one of the persons involved with that takedown, they found something very eerie in his hotel room, and it was these baby dolls, 12 baby dolls filled with chemical explosives. And the plot was to take these baby dolls on 12 different airliners and blow up the airplanes simultaneously. Fortunately, we caught him before he could carry out that sinister plot. But it does give you some insight into the mind, the sort of evil genius behind the terrorists. He was eventually brought back to New York, where he's in prison today. Again, a great piece of work bringing fugitive to justice, and they pulled the blindfold off his head and said, "See, you didn't do it. You didn't pull it off." And he said, "I would have if I'd had a little more money." And I'll talk to the marshals involved with that arrest. And then, of course, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, his uncle, was able to pull off one of the greatest attacks on U.S. soil in 2001, September the 11th, then successfully bringing down the World Trade Center. Unfortunately, we caught him, another great fugitive brought to justice. He sits in Guantanamo Bay. I've had the opportunity to see him. The time I saw him was actually during prayer hour, as he laid prostrate over his prayer rug. And he looked up. We could see him. He couldn't see us. But again, this evilness, this darkness that's out there. But I can tell you this, with the killing of Bin Laden, I believe the beginning of the end is near. It's not perfect in Afghanistan. I just got back there last November. There's still a lot of work to do. We do not want that to become a safe haven again for the terrorists. But locally here, the work that you do, whether it's counterterrorism work, whether it's bringing these sex offenders to justice, and so many of them have been brought to justice, whether you deal with fugitives going to Mexico, bringing them back. Just yesterday I was down in Laredo chairing a field hearing with Congressman McCaul, and we met with the task force similar to this down there. As you know, the Mexican border is a very dangerous place. And in fact, in Nuevo Laredo, I believe the cartel violence is going to increase, not decrease, over the next year. With that comes a threat to, I think, Texas and to the United States. You know, this corridor, I-35, is their route that they use to bring in the drugs and bring in the violence to Texas. But the great work here, the men and women, I want to just highlight 3 cases that I was reading last night. It was just fantastic. And as a federal prosecutor and as someone who worked in the AG's office and somebody who worked on these issues in the past and worked, bring sex offenders to justice as well, it just gives me great pride to stand here before you today. No longer a prosecutor, but one always at heart, one in law enforcement always, as an alumni. But it gives me just such great pride to stand before you to say thank you for all the great work you've done. But I wanted to highlight 3 cases that I found to be just outstanding. Colton Petenyak, the 2006 murder on UT's West Campus of Jennifer Cave. We all remember this one. A brutal murder where body was dismembered. He was eventually apprehended in Mexico and given a 55-year sentence. He's serving at TDC as we speak. Paul Gilbert Defoe, 2007 capital murder fugitive. He shot and killed 6 individuals, one from Marble Falls, 4 Johnstown, and one 81-year-old grandmother from Greencastle, Pennsylvania. A grandmother. He's on death row currently. One thing I did when I worked for John Cornyn was I oversaw all the death row appeals. And how you feel about the death penalty may be a point of personal conscience or religion, but I can tell you the cases that I presided over are so horrific that I believe it is warranted in many of these cases, like this one, killing a grandmother. Another one, Willie Griffin, Hayes County, attempted capital murder. On March 16th, out of parole, he lured a 17-year-old girl, brutally stabbed and sexually assaulted her, and left her for dead at the Hayes County, Blanco County line. The victim's ability to recall the events led to his arrest within 2 weeks. These are just 3 of many, many cases that y'all have worked on. Really trying to bring the worst, the baddest apples, get them out of society and get them behind bars so they can't repeat these awful offenses again. So with that, I just want to, again, say thank you. The threats out there, not just from the drug cartels, not just from the terrorists, but really just from homegrown criminals who want to do harm, many times to children, which is the worst, or to old people, or to unsuspecting victims. And so what you do really makes a difference. And really at the end of the day in life, that's what it's all about, is making a difference. So take pride in your work, that every day when you're out there trying to bring these fugitives to justice, that you are making a difference in public safety and the lives of the citizens of Central Texas. So thank you so much for having me.